Hi guys, welcome back to Storytime. I'm really glad you decided to come join me again. Clap your hands if you like stories. Clap your hands, I know you do. I'm so glad that we could be together. Glad to share a story time with you. So I've got a couple of really fun stories today that I'm so excited to share with you, and some fun songs and things. I do have a favor to ask. I'm having a great time looking up all these stories, trying to ask people, and they're triggering my memory about stories that I heard when I was a little girl, and stories my mom heard when she was a little girl, and her grandmother heard when she was a little girl. If you have any favorite stories that you like to be told, go ahead and tell me in the comments down underneath. Maybe if you trigger my memory a little bit, I might share that story on a story time too. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first story that we have to tell today is about a whale and an elephant and then a little rabbit. And one day the rabbit was walking down by the ocean when he heard some voices talking. And he snuck over quietly because he was a sneaky rabbit, and sometimes he was a little bit nosy, and sometimes he was too smart for his own good. So he snuck up quietly and he heard it was the whale deep in the water talking to the elephant standing on the sand. And the whale said, "So you see, I am the largest thing in the ocean, the largest, the biggest, and the strongest, and the most powerful. And you, Mr. Elephant, you are the most powerful, large, strong creature on the land. Between the two of us, if we work together, we could rule all of the animals." And the elephant said, "That's a splendid idea. We could have them do all of our chores. We could have them bring us food. We could tell them to do whatever we wanted them to do, and they would have to obey us." And they agreed that between the two of them, they would be in charge. Now, the rabbit didn't like the sound of that. He said to himself, "They won't be in charge of me if I have anything to say about it." So he thought and thought until he came up with a plan. And he scurried back to his burrow. And from his burrow, he searched and searched and found a very, very long length of rope. And he took that rope and he dragged it along behind him until he came down to the seashore. And he called out, "Mr. Whale! Mr. Whale!" And the whale surfaced with a spout of water out of the top of his head and said, "Yes, what do you want, Rabbit?" And the rabbit said, "I need some help. You see, my cow has gotten stuck in the mud way back there near my burrow, and I can't get her out. But I know that you are so strong and so helpful that you could definitely pull my cow out of the mud." And the whale preened to himself and said, "Why, of course. Whether your cow is buried down in the mud up to her horns, I will be able to pull her out." And the rabbit said, "Oh, thank you so much. I'll leave this end of the rope here with you, and I'm going to go back to the other end and I'm going to tie it around my cow. And when I give a big hey-ah, I want you to pull. Start gently at first, though, because she's an old cow." And the whale agreed. The rabbit scurried to get the other end of the rope, which he dragged and dragged into the tall grass until he got to the elephant. And he said, "Mr. Elephant, may I ask you for a favor?" And the elephant said, "You may. Go ahead." The rabbit said, "My cow, she's stuck in the mud way over there at the other end of this rope near my burrow. And I cannot get her out, and she can't lift her poor hooves out of the mud. But I know that you are so strong that you could pull her out without even trying." And the elephant said, "That is true. I am strong enough to pull a dozen cows out of the mud." And the rabbit said, "Oh, will you help me then?" And the elephant said, "Of course I will." And the rabbit said, "All right, you take this end of the rope. I'm going to go tie the other end to my cow. When I give a big hey-ah from over there, you pull gently, because she's kind of old. And he scurried until he was at the middle of the rope. And he could not see either the whale or the elephant. And when he was ready, he yelled, "Hey-ah!" At the ocean, the whale took hold of the rope and started to pull. He gave a small tug, tug, tug. And nothing budged. He grunted. "This cow must be stuck very deep," he said to himself. At the other end of the rope, though, the elephant had wrapped his trunk around the rope and was pulling. But of course the rope wasn't moving. And he said, "The cow is firmly stuck, but I am too strong to give up." And so he pulled harder. And the whale on the other end pulled harder and harder. And finally, the elephant said, "This must be a remarkably heavy cow." And he put his feet against a tree that was nearby so that he had something to brace against and gave a mighty tug. On the other end of the rope, the whale was almost pulled clear out of the water. And he said, "What on earth is going on?" And he took that rope and he wrapped it back around his tail and gave a big heave-ho into the water. Almost pulled the tree over where the elephant was braced against it. And he pulled and the elephant slid down to the sand. And the elephant was so angry when he saw where he was that he gave a tug and pulled so hard that the whale came up out of the water. And the whale said, "Who's pulling me?" And the elephant said, "Who's been pulling me?" And the whale said, "I'll teach you to trick me, elephant." And the elephant said, "Me? You're the one playing the trick." And they both started to pull and pull and pull. And of course, they were both so strong that it went on for some time until finally they pulled so hard that the rope broke right in the middle. And the elephant fell backwards onto his bottom. And the whale came up out of the water and did a back somersault. Splash! And they were both so embarrassed and so angry and frustrated that they didn't want to speak to each other again. And their plan fell completely apart. And the rabbit was not ruled by anyone but himself. All right, so we're going to do Two Little Blackbirds as a rhyme today. And I'm going to use scarves, but you don't have to have scarves if you don't have any at home. You could use washcloths or hand towels or tissues or anything that you happen to have lying around. Anything that you can wave around and have some fun with. All right, here we go. Two little blackbirds sitting on a hill. One named Jack and one named Jill. Fly away, Jack. Fly away, Jill. Come back, Jack. Come back, Jill. Two little blackbirds sitting on a cloud. One was quiet. The other was loud. Fly away, quiet. Fly away, loud. Come back, quiet. Come back, loud. Two little blackbirds sitting on my toe. One was high and the other was low. Fly away, high. Fly away, low. Come back, high. Come back, low. Two little blackbirds sitting on a stick. You have to pretend the stick. One was slow. Can you wave it slowly? And one was quick. Fly away, slow. Fly away, quick. Come back, slow. Come back, quick. I like that one. I hope you do too. Okay, our second story is about Silly Jack. Jack lived on a farm with his mother, and they were very poor. The mother worked at home doing her sewing, and Jack earned a few pennies here and there sometimes by working at other farms and businesses in the area. One day, the mother was so very frustrated with Jack for not helping out more around the farm that she said, Go find a job now. or you won't get any supper tonight." And so Jack went out, and he went to the neighboring farm, and he helped out for the day, and he earned a penny. And on his way home, he was playing with the penny, flipping it into the air, and catching it. Only once, when he was crossing the bridge over a river, he flipped into the air, missed on his catch, and it fell to the water with a splash and was gone. And when he got home, his mother was so angry with him. She said, "Jack, you silly boy, you should have put it snugly in your pocket." And Jack said, "I'll remember that." So the next day, Jack went out to work again, and this time he worked over with the cow keeper, the farmer who kept a bunch of cows. And he worked hard for the day. And as he was leaving, the farmer gave him a jug of milk to take home. And Jack remembered his mother's words, so he took that jug of milk and put it snugly in his pocket. Of course, by the time he'd gotten home, that milk had jostled and spilled all over the place. And his mother said, "Jack, you don't carry milk in your pocket. You should have carried it on your head," which I guess was the thing that they did then. And Jack said, "I will remember that." So the next day he goes out and he goes to work for the day at the dairy where they make cheeses and butters and things. And for his pay for the day, he was given a wheel of soft cheese. And he remembered his mother's words, and he carried that cheese on his head. But it was a warm day, and by the time he got home, the cheese had melted down over his head and was matting his hair and had made an awful mess. And his mother said, "Jack, what am I going to do with you? You don't carry cheese on your head. You should have carried it very carefully in your hands." And Jack said, "This is a lot to remember, but I will remember, I promise." And so the next day he went to work at another farm, and he helped pitch the hay all day. And he was given for his pay a very large old tomcat. And remembering his mother's words, Jack picked up the tomcat very carefully in his hands to try to carry it home. The cat did not care much for this method of transportation. And the cat began to scratch and claw and fight until Jack finally could not hold on to the cat anymore, and it jumped out of his hands and ran all the way back to the farm where he'd been working. And when Jack got home, covered with scratches that needed to be cleaned and bandaged, his mother sighed. She was getting a bit tired of this, and she said, "Jack, you don't try to carry tomcats in your hands. You should have taken a string and tied it around the cat's neck like a leash and led it home." And Jack said, "All right, that's fine." So the next day he went out to work, and he went to a butcher where they have meat. And he worked very hard with that meat all day. And for his pay, he was given a large side of beef to take home. And remembering his mother's words, he took a piece of string and tied it around the beef and dragged it all the way home, through the dirt, through the mud, through the grass. Of course, when he got home, that meat was not good for anything at all anymore. And his mother was so frustrated with him, and she said, "You silly, silly boy. You don't drag meat on the ground. A piece of meat that big you should have carried on your shoulder all the way home." And Jack said, "Okay." And so he went out the next day, and he hired himself out to a barnyard to work. And he must have worked super hard that day because he knew his mom was getting frustrated with him. And he knew that he had to bring home something good this time. And so this time he worked hard enough that they gave him his own donkey to take home. That was a big deal. And he definitely didn't want to mess this up. And so he did his best. He remembered his mother's words. Now, it was difficult getting the donkey up onto his shoulder like that, but Jack was a strong young man, strapping, muscular, and finally he got that donkey onto his shoulder, its legs waving in the air, its head lolling back onto his chest, and he started making his way slowly home with the donkey, trying to avoid being kicked in the head. Now it happened that between the barnyard and his house was a large castle. Not a king, maybe a duke or a count. And in that castle, there was a young lady who was so sad. She was sighing and mournful all day, and her father was heartbroken that his daughter was so unhappy. And he had tried to make her smile with pretty dresses and songs, but nothing he did could bring a smile to her face. And so he had said, if anyone can make my daughter laugh, I will give them her hand in marriage. So the daughter was looking out of her window when she saw Jack walking by with the donkey on his shoulder, kicking its legs in the air and hee-haw, hitting its head onto his chest. And the sight was so strange that she snorted and cracked up and laughed herself silly until she was rolling on the floor. And the father was so happy to hear his daughter laughing that he ran out and brought Jack to the castle and said, please, you can marry my daughter and you can live here. Just always make her laugh like that. And so Jack ended his days wearing fine clothes, not needing to carry any donkeys anywhere. And his mother moved to the castle with them, and they were comfortable and happy for the rest of their days. Okay, I hope you've got your shakers or your rhythm sticks or your drums, anything you want that you can help play along with me today. We're gonna do Hickory Dickory Dock. And it's a little bit different, the version I learned when I was little. So let's see if you enjoy it. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck one, the mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. Hickory dickory dock. The hen forgot to cluck. The goose was loose, the turkey was perky. Hickory dickory dock. Hickory dickory deck. The frog jumped on my neck. Ribbit. The frog said croak, I gave him a poke. Hickory dickory deck. Hickory dickory dook. The cat asked for a book. The owl and the quail enjoyed the tale. Hickory dickory dook. Hickory dickory do. The rest is up to you. This silly song's gone on too long. Hickory dickory do. You could make up any verses you want. If you do make up some, go ahead and tell me what they are. All right? Okay, that's it for story time today. Make sure that you sign up for the library's newsletter. You can do that on the library website, racinelibrary.info, and go up under Contact Us. So you'll know in the newsletters everything that's going on at the library and when we're doing story time, so you can get the link to come see us. All right, everyone, stand up tall and reach for the ceiling and touch the floor. Stand up again. Let's do some more. Touch your head and now your knees. Up to your shoulders like this, you see. Reach for the ceiling and touch the floor. That's all there is. There isn't any more. Bye-bye.